I was Jason's first love. I went abroad for 2 years. When I came back, he was already with the daughter of the nanny. All his wealthy friends had also accepted this girl. They all looked down on me for coming back. At the dinner party, the girl stopped me pitifully. "Stop pestering Jason. He's not your possession." I frowned slightly and pushed her away. "Get out of the way. You seem to be out of your mind. A useless illegitimate son. They actually treat him like a precious thing." As soon as I returned to the country, I received a video. In the video, Jason had a girl in his arms. And his cronies were sitting in the private room. After drinking a few glasses of wine, some people started speaking one after another. "Jason, was a a member. Jocelyn is back in the country. Aren't you going to pick her up? Aren't you afraid that she'll call you and cry?" Bat Jocelyn is so high and mighty. If Jason hadn't told us, we wouldn't have known that she had been looking up to Jason in private for so long. Back then, she ran abroad, thinking that Jason would go and coax her. Who would have thought that Jason already has someone better now? I really want to see Jocelyn's reaction. Amidst the sounds of schadenfreude, the girl snuggled in Jason's arms raised her head, her eyes slightly red. "Jason? What if she comes to find you?" Jason took the cigarette away and kissed her on the forehead. "Don't worry. She's not even worthy of a single hair of yours." Hearing this, I looked down at my long hair that I spend hundreds of thousands of yuan on maintaining every month and raised my eyebrows. "That's right, Nina. Don't worry. We'll all protect you. With us protecting you, Jocelyn wouldn't dare to do anything to you." Following Jason's words, everyone started a new round of looking down on me. "Miss, heading to a field-wide session. Do you want to deal with these people?" My assistant, who was driving, asked seriously. After transferring some money to the account that sent the video, I turned off my phone and brought up another matter. "Is my homecoming banquet being prepared?" "Yes. Do you have any new requirements?" My assistant still replied calmly. "The grander the better. Don't invite any of the people in this video." I played with my phone. "Understood. No invitations will be sent to them." My assistant understood and raised her voice a bit. I casually looked out the window at the flashing neon lights passing by. In the wealthy circle, the hierarchy is very clear. Just one level difference is like looking up at a tall building from the bottom of a ditch. Out of reach. The Jocelyn family has always been one of the few tall buildings in the circle. And these people in the video, if I remember correctly, couldn't even sit at my table when having a meal together. I haven't been back for a long time. And I've almost forgotten how they used to flatter and fawn over me. Maybe they've forgotten it themselves. But it doesn't matter. They'll remember it soon. Not receiving an invitation to the homecoming banquet of the daughter of the Jocelyn family means that the Jocelyn family intends to remove these families from their cooperation. Those who are on good terms with the Jocelyn family will naturally have a clear understanding of the situation. Dealing with them would dirty my hands. It's more interesting to let them come and apologize on their knees. Not long after the invitations for the banquet were sent out, calls looking for me kept coming to my assistant one after another. After telling my parents about this, they were also very angry and let me handle it as I wanted. I could do whatever I wanted. Not only to vent my anger but also to regain the face of the Jocelyn family. Not just anyone can speak ill of the Jocelyn family behind their backs. After leaving them hanging for a few days, I asked my assistant to give them a unified time. When I walked into the private room, they had all taken their seats. Jason looked at me, his face looking very unpleasant. I walked straight to the main seat and just as I sat down, Jason opened his mouth and said, "Jocelyn, no matter how angry you are with me, you can't joke about this kind of thing. This will affect the cooperation of many families." I looked up at him and sneered contemptuously. "I haven't even spoken yet. Do you have the right to speak here?" As soon as these words came out, Jason's face darkened a bit more. And the gloom in his eyes became even more intense. The people present, feeling the low pressure, all lowered their heads. Where was the arrogance they had in the video before? I leaned back against the chair, looked around, and slowly said, "Everyone. Don't you have anything to say? Weren't you all talking so enthusiastically before?" After a long silence, a guy stood up, held a wine glass, and bowed to me. Jocelyn. We were out of line. Please forgive us for our mistakes. Then he downed the wine in one gulp, with him taking the lead. The others also stood up one after another and bowed to apologize. Only Jason remained seated, as if he thought I would give him special treatment. After everyone had apologized, I stared at Jason, tapping my fingers on the table without speaking. Jocelyn let out a low sigh. Are you really that angry with me? Do you really have to go this far? Jason showed a disappointed look towards me. When Jason was first brought back to the Jason family, he was still an illegitimate son who was despised by others. The first time I met him was at school. He fell at my feet with injuries all over his body and begged me to save him. But in his eyes were hatred and unwillingness. He was like a struggling little beast. Very interesting. At that time, it so happened that the eldest son of the Jason family was a fool who had done a lot of disgusting things behind the scenes. So I provided money and support to help him out. Gradually, I helped him gain a firm foothold in the Jason family. Since then, he had been sticking by my side. And the rumors about me being obsessed with him and looking up to him started to surface at that time. At that time, I suddenly had some health problems and was later urgently sent abroad for treatment. So I didn't have time to pay attention to those rumors. Now that I'm back, I realize that the little pup I raised on a whim has actually turned the tables and become my master. It's really turning things upside down. Seeing me lost in thought, Jason had a bit more pride on his face. Just as he was about to continue speaking, I waved my hand to interrupt him. Does it really matter to me whether you hate me or not? Even Jason's father wouldn't dare to talk to me like this. Who do you think you are? The smile on Jason's lips froze instantly, and the veins on the hand holding the wine glass popped out. I retracted my gaze and said inferiorly, for those of you who have apologized, this matter is over. The invitations will be sent tomorrow. I hope you will all honor us with your presence. Jason suppressed the anger in his chest, stood up, bowed slowly to me, and downed the wine in his glass. Jocelyn. I'm sorry. After he finished speaking, I slowly stood up. I have something else to do. So I won't keep you company. Please enjoy your meal. All the expenses will be charged to my account. Then, went out. Under the gaze of everyone, I left the private room. My homecoming dinner party was very grand. And almost all the prominent people were there. Wearing a dress, I rested my hand holding a wine glass on the railing of the second floor and looked down at the guests below. Hey, having fulfilled my session. I heard you organized a gathering some time ago? Jason was there too. Jocelyn weighed her wine glass and bumped my shoulder. The Lynn family of the Jocelyn family is one of the top families in the circle. And we've had a friendship since we were kids. Yeah. Some people said things I didn't want to hear. So I gave them a reminder. I took a sip of wine and replied inferiorly. Indeed. You'd just taken over the Jocelyn family's business not long ago. You need to establish your prestige. Jason also needs to know his place. Jocelyn is very clear about these ways and means. I'm leaving. I put the wine glass into the hand of Jocelyn, who still wanted to speak, and went downstairs with my approaching assistant. As soon as I stood still, I felt a burning gaze. It was from Jason. There was surprise, obsession, having fulfilled my obsession, and unwillingness in his eyes. I frowned in disgust. What a scumbag. After saying a lot of polite words, I got off the stage and chatted with the guests who came to greet me. Finally, heading to Feldley, I got some free time and went to the terrace to catch my breath. Jocelyn. Jason's voice sounded behind me. I turned around irritably and looked at him unhappily. You look very beautiful today, Jason said softly and walked slowly towards me. I looked at him coldly. When Jason stuck by my side, he would always say sweet words like this. At that time, there was still some true feelings in his eyes. In addition, he was particularly attentive to my affairs and took care of everything. So I did give him a lot of preferential treatment. If you don't want to be thrown out by the bodyguards, please mind your manners, I said infuriately and turned sideways to leave. But a figure suddenly rushed out and blocked in front of Jason. Nina. Why are you here? Jason was also surprised by Nina's appearance. Sister Jocelyn. Can you please leave Jason alone? He doesn't like you. Why do you keep pestering him? Mina bit her lip. And her eyes were red. As if I was really a bully who was forcing a man to be with me. Mina? What are you talking about? Jason pulled Mina's hand away and wanted to take her away. But Mina was determined to make things clear with me. Sister Jocelyn. When you asked Jason to have a meal last time, were you threatening him? I know you're rich and powerful. But you can't bully people like this. Mentioning the meal. Jason's face turned ugly. This Nina is really extremely stupid. Mina. Go back. Jason warned in a low voice. Looking unhappy. But Nina ignored him. Gathering her courage, she stepped forward and grabbed my dress. Looking even more pitiful, stop pestering Jason. He's not your possession. I've endured these two crazy people for long enough. I frowned and pushed her away. Get out of the way. You seem to be out of your mind. An illegitimate son. They really treat him like a precious thing. Who cares about him anyway? Nina fell to the ground as she followed the momentum. And Jason hugged her immediately. Looking at me with dissatisfaction. Jocelyn. You can talk properly. There's no need to bully people like this. Right. I lifted my eyelids slightly and said calmly. What did you say? Jason was a bit frightened by my expression. Lowered his eyes. And lowered his voice. I'm sorry. Jocelyn. If you don't want to be thrown out by the bodyguards in front of so many people, get lost on your own. After glancing at Nina, who was in tears, I walked out of the terrace and returned to the guests. Jocelyn. Do you know what time it is now? And do you know until what time I was drinking at your homecoming banquet yesterday? Jocelyn, who was woken up by me early in the morning and still hadn't fully sobered up from the alcohol, walked into the private room with a complaining tone. Glancing at the photo of Nina spread out on the table, Jocelyn gave me a look with an ambiguous meaning. You don't really have feelings for Jason, do you? Are you going to take action against her? I took a sip of water and said inferiorly. Ever since I came back, I've always felt that there's something wrong between Jason and Nina. He finally managed to establish a firm foothold in the Jason family, relying on me. And at that time, I didn't show that I disliked him. Although I went abroad due to illness later. And there were rumors that I might not be saved. For someone like him, he wouldn't easily cut off his connection with me in this way. Now he has put Nina in the open and torn his relationship with me. This isn't his style. Jocelyn sat down on the sofa. Maybe he's truly in love? I sneered and reached out to pick up a photo. Take a good look. Is there anything wrong? Jocelyn leaned forward. Squinted her eyes. But didn't notice anything. I slowly held the photo next to my cheek and reached out to cover the lower half of Nina's face. Take a look again. Jocelyn's pupils suddenly shrank. And she completely sobered up from the alcohol. You. Her. She looks very similar. Especially those eyes. They look so much like mine. Or rather, like my father's. I said it casually. As if I was just teasing about the change in the weather. Nina is Jocelyn's father. It's impossible. Jocelyn's father loves Aunt Xiao so much. Moreover, the Xiao family isn't a pushover. If there really was something like that, how could the Xiao family be so calm? Jocelyn sat on the sofa, sorting out her thoughts. The Xiao and Shen families are truly lifelong friends in the real sense. And their relationship is even closer than that of the Lin family. Listening to Jocelyn's chattering, I placed the appraisal report beside me in front of her. I had someone find this at Nina's house. Take a look. Jocelyn took the report without any surprise. After all, every family has some people who do shady things. After reading it, Jocelyn threw the appraisal report onto the table. She really is. No wonder Jason is so blatant about being with her. So he already knew. What's this for? Is he waiting for the right moment to send her into the Jocelyn family? And then he can completely hitch a ride on the big ship of the Jocelyn family? He really has a good plan. I poured a glass of water for the furious Jocelyn. Compared to me, Nina is indeed a better choice. However, he's out of luck. Jocelyn looked at me. What do you mean? I smiled and placed another report on the table. I felt something was wrong the day I came back. I had someone take samples of the two of them and did another appraisal. After reading it, Jocelyn showed a look of confusion. Not a biological child. What's going on? Could it be that the previous report was fake? I shook my head. Both reports are real. After saying that, I slowly smiled again. The real Nina. The fake Nina. It's really interesting. It seems that to solve these mysteries, we can only ask the person involved. It's okay. I'll have someone bring her here and ask her properly. After saying that, Jocelyn was about to make a phone call. I stopped her. There's no need to rush. Before that, there are still things to do. Sensing Jocelyn's gaze, I explained, Jason has gone to great lengths for Nina in order to get involved with the Jocelyn family. But as long as I'm in the Jocelyn family, not to mention that Nina can't enter the Jocelyn family. Even if she does, she won't get anything from the Jocelyn family. Didn't they get together because they heard the rumor that I was seriously ill and difficult to treat, and I was probably going to die? Now that I'm back safe and sound, what do you think Jason's next plan will be? Jocelyn's mind worked quickly, and she immediately understood the meaning. She stood up with a start. How dare he? Does he really dare to take your life? I leaned against the backrest of the sofa and sank down. Whether he dares or not, we won't know until we try. I really don't like this feeling of being calculated about my life and death in the dark. It will be more interesting to bring all these things out into the open. A few days later, the news came that the old gentleman of the Jason family was seriously ill and hospitalized. I was having afternoon tea in the yard. When I heard the news, I had someone prepare a car to go to the hospital. As soon as I arrived at the private ward, I heard scolding voices not far away. Jason, I'm telling you, Dad has already written a will. You won't get a single cent. Do you really think he let you into the company to value you? Stop daydreaming. It's just that he asked you to save the half-dead company at that time and pave the way for me. You're just a dog raised by our Jason family. Bah! I heard that now the eldest young lady of the Jocelyn family doesn't want you anymore and are involved with the daughter of a nanny. After scolding intermittently for a while, the voices disappeared. It should be the eldest son of the Jason family who was sent abroad for making mistakes before. Jason, went out a low sigh, straightening his wrinkled collar, walked out. When he saw me, a gleam flashed in his eyes. Jocelyn, why are you here? I handed him the flowers. I came to see Father Jason and also to talk to you about something, by the way. After visiting Father Jason, Jason took me to the restroom. Jocelyn, what do you want to talk to me about? I stared at him and clearly saw the calculated look hidden under his tender eyes. I smiled and said, when did you know Nina's identity? Jason's expression froze for a moment and then returned to normal. Nina is just the daughter of a nanny. Her nanny mother even died of illness a couple of years ago. What identity could she have? I raised my eyebrows and threw the appraisal report in front of him. Coincidentally, I was curious a few days ago and had someone do a paternity report between her and my family members. It turned out that she's from the Jocelyn family. I watched as Jason held the paternity report that I had someone fake. Originally, had Jocelyn sigh. It showed that they were not related by blood, but now it showed they were. I guessed that after Jason knew Nina's identity, he didn't do a new appraisal. After all, he couldn't get the sample of President Jocelyn. Jocelyn, listen to my explanation. I really didn't know. My feelings for Nina. I interrupted Jason impatiently. Jason, whether you really didn't know or were just pretending not to know, I'll tell you the truth. As long as I'm alive, Nina won't be able to enter the Jocelyn family. Your plan to use her to get involved with the Jocelyn family will only end in vain. I just heard what your brother said. It seems that you're not in Father Jason's will. You've really been scheming all along. But in the end, you'll get nothing. Finally, Hedin felt of sigh. You'll become that illegitimate child who is despised by others and can be stepped on by anyone again. Jocelyn, Jason suddenly roared. And the fragile piece of paper was crumpled into a ball in his hand. I stared at him calmly and saw the murderous intent hidden in his eyes. I suddenly remembered that a long time ago, he accompanied me and gradually entered the Jason family step by step. But he thought it was too slow and even decided to drug me on my birthday. To make the situation a fait accompli and completely tie himself to the Jocelyn family. He even bribed reporters and the media. Just waiting to make the matter solid and cause a big stir. Later, He was knocked over a wine glass by someone. I didn't pursue it at that time. Speaking of which, I had already let him off once. And there was also a car accident I had abroad later. Calculating the time. He was already with Nina at that time and knew Nina's identity. The driver of the car that crashed into me at that time died on the spot and was found to be driving under the influence. The Jocelyn family had someone investigate but found nothing. So they let it go. After that, my family secretly protected me and spread the news that I was seriously ill and difficult to treat. Now that I think about it, it should also be Jason's doing. This time, he should also be planning how to get rid of me. Then I'll provoke him and make the plan move forward a bit. Make this dog more anxious and make him jump over the wall faster. My life and death should follow my plan. Jason. Protect your bargaining chip. I smiled with an ambiguous meaning. Then I ignored Jason's ugly face and left gracefully. After meeting with Jason, I remained quiet for a few days. Every day, having fulfilled my obsession, I either went to the family's aquarium to look at the fish or tasted new wines in the winery. This made Jocelyn so anxious that she was running around in front of me. You pushed Jason to this extent. And you're still so leisurely. He wants your life. Instead of having someone keep an eye on him, you're here looking at sharks. I was lying on a rocking chair, watching the shark swimming leisurely in the glass, and slowly turned my gaze to Jocelyn. There's no need to rush. There's still one person. I'm waiting for her choice. Who is it? As soon as Jocelyn finished speaking, my phone rang. The assistant's voice was serious. Miss. Someone called and said that Jason has been looking for people to follow you recently. They asked you to be careful and not go out alone. I raised my eyebrows at Jocelyn and replied, who made the call? Have you investigated? We've investigated. It was a public phone. We're still looking into the details. There's no need to investigate. Call Uncle Key and ask him to do something for me. After simply saying that, I hung up the phone and stood up, saying to Jocelyn, let's go. Where are we going? Jocelyn asked as we walked. To visit someone's house. I replied in a good mood. When we arrived at the door, Jocelyn stared at the lock that Uncle Key had pried open earlier and sent sinister lie. Is this what you call visiting someone's house? This is breaking and entering. Isn't it? Yeah. You can go and sue me. I took off my shoes first and stepped into the house. The house was a typical one-room and one living room apartment. It was so small that it would be full if two people went in. Whose house is this? Jocelyn looked around. I walked to the door of the room and grasped the doorknob. This is Nina's house. Click, the door opened. And the wind blew in from the open window, lifting the hair by people's ears. Nina. Jocelyn's words got stuck in her throat. She unbelievably stretched out her finger and pointed at the wall in front of her. I stared at that wall. It was densely covered with my photos. Photos of me having a meal, at a party, on the way home from school, feeding stray cats, and even from magazines. Even during the time I was abroad later, when there were no photos. She cut out the texts from the news reports. Is she a pervert? Jocelyn swallowed a mouthful of saliva, and her voice was still a bit shaky. I took 2 steps forward and stroked one of the photos, which was taken when I was having a birthday party. I smiled softly and said, Nina, you took a really good photo of me. After saying that, I slowly turned my head and looked at Nina, who had appeared by the door at some point. Jocelyn was startled by my words and stiffly turned her head to look. Nina was staring at me intently. There was no longer the weakness and pitiful look she had when we met before. The three of us confronted each other for a while. I shrugged. Is there any water? I'm thirsty. Nina lowered her eyes, remained silent, and turned to the kitchen to pour water. I pulled the still shaken Jocelyn and sat down on the sofa. I was as leisurely as if I were at my own home. Nina placed the glass of water in front of me and sat down opposite me. What about mine? Jocelyn looked at the only glass of water on the table and said discontentedly. You didn't say you were thirsty. Nina said calmly. I let out a soft laugh, picked up the water and took a sip. It was still warm. Jocelyn was so angry that she completely fell silent. Nina. Perhaps you have another name. I put down the water glass and looked up at the cold-faced girl opposite me. What do you want to say? Nina still stared at me expressionlessly. As if she didn't care about being exposed. It was you who called my assistant, right? You don't want me to die? I leaned back on the sofa and asked naturally. Yeah. Nina didn't hesitate to give an affirmative answer. Why? You're with Jason. Letting him know your identity is just to make him your helper to get back into the Jocelyn family. Right? If I die, the route for you two to go back will be smoother. I casually threw out the topic. I'm not from the Jocelyn family. And I don't want to go back to the Jocelyn family either. Nina said it frankly. And I really don't understand. What are you after? I propped my head up and asked lightly. Upon hearing this, Nina pursed her lips into a thin line and looked at Jocelyn beside me. Jocelyn, you go back to the car first. I'll come to find you later. I turned sideways and whispered to Jocelyn. Jocelyn rolled her eyes at Nina. Stood up and reminded me, be careful. I'll wait for you downstairs. With the sound of the door closing, I looked at Nina. Now you can tell me. Why did you spend so much effort acting out that affectionate drama with Jason for so long? Nina lowered her eyes. And after a while, she said, Jason is not a good person. You can't like him. And he can't pester you either. The air was silent for a few seconds. I met Nina's candid gaze and couldn't find the words to reply for a moment. Do you mean that you did all this for me? Yeah. Then why did you let Jason know about that paternity report? To cut off his thoughts about you. And also to expose him when he sends me into the Jocelyn family. Saying that everything was forged by him and that he threatened me. Anyway, I'm not from the Jocelyn family originally. A Jocelyn family just needs to do another paternity test to know the truth. At that time, a Jocelyn family will deal with him. And there will be no more possibility between you two. You will also find out his true face. However, I didn't expect that he would try to do something to you. Nina's voice got smaller and smaller as she spoke. The Jason family won't let you go. Although the Jason family can't compare with the Jocelyn family. It's not a small and insignificant family either. At that time, the Jocelyn family won't protect you either. I stood up and sat beside Nina, propping my head up to look at her. I know. It doesn't matter. Nina sat with her back straight, as if she really wasn't afraid of the consequences. I raised the corners of my mouth and moved closer. Nina, do you want to consider cooperating with me? Your plan remains the same. And I'll add my plan to it. The Jocelyn family won't protect you. But I will. Nina turned to look at me and fell silent. I reached out my hand to cover the lower half of Nina's face and stared into her eyes and eyebrows. Once on my birthday, Jason put medicine in the wine he gave me. When I was about to drink it, a masked waiter tripped and fell at my feet while holding the wine, knocking over that glass of wine. Who do you think she was? Nina's eyes dodged. And then, as if making up her mind, she looked at me directly. Jason is not a good person. When he was with you, he had relationships with many girls behind your back. He wasn't sincere to you. You can't like him. I burst out laughing. And it took me a while to catch my breath. Who told you that I like Jason? Don't put that affectionate hat on me. Tell me, what's the deal with your identity? What about the real Nina? And her mother? What exactly is going on? The smile gradually disappeared from my face. As if the person who had been teasing and showing tenderness just now was someone else. After a few seconds of silence, Nina began to tell me everything. By the time I got back to the car, it was already afternoon. The afterglow of the setting sun shone through the car window and fell on my face. Is it all done? What's going on? Jocelyn turned off the music in the car and said seriously. The real Nina and her mother are both dead. I rubbed my forehead. What? Jocelyn was a bit shocked. Nina said that she was taken out of an orphanage in a distant place by that woman because she looked very much like the real Nina when they were young. At that time, the real Nina died of a serious illness. That woman was a former schoolmate of my father's. She confessed her love but was rejected. Later, after my father got married, she took advantage of an opportunity to drug my father and knock him out. After succeeding, she was afraid of being discovered by the Shen and Xiao families. So she ran away. She thought that when the child grew up and the time was right, She would reveal the child's identity and smoothly enter the Jocelyn family. Who knew that the child later died of illness? In order to return to the Jocelyn family, she adopted a child who looked similar from a remote orphanage and made her take on the identity of the real Nina. All these were said by that woman when she was drunk. Later, she had an accident because she drank too much. Nina was then sent to a welfare institute. She was adopted several times and finally grew up after going through many twists and turns. I briefly told the cause and effect. Damn. This is really the vagaries of fate. It took Jocelyn a while to say such a sentence. Then why did this Nina treat you like that? Have you had any interactions with her? I shook my head, I asked. But she didn't say. I don't have any impression either. As Jocelyn started the car, she said, "That's right. You've been doing all kinds of charity work since you were a child. You've been to orphanages and welfare institutes a lot. Maybe you saw her in one of the welfare institutes." I looked at the clouds dyed crimson and outside the window. Like an eternal fire that seemed to burn into people's hearts, maybe. What are you going to do about Jason? Play along with a scheme. The news of Jason's father being critically ill kept coming. Jason was like an ant on a hot pan at this time. I decided to give him a breakthrough. I'm going to visit my grandparents tomorrow. They must miss me after I've been away for so long. At dinner, I said slowly. Okay. Then we'll go with you tomorrow. My father smiled lovingly at me. No need. I want to go by myself tomorrow and have a heart-to-heart talk with them, I said mysteriously. My father and mother looked at each other and smiled. And they let me do as I wanted. The next day, and then, it rained continuously. I drove to the cemetery alone, placed the flowers in front of the photos of my grandparents, and said softly, "Grandpa and Grandma, please bless your granddaughter." After staying for a while, when I was walking down the steps with an umbrella, someone covered my head from behind and took me into a car. Kidnapping me? Are you outlaws? My sight was blocked, and my hands were hurting from the rope. No one replied to me, and the car fell silent. In a trance, I was taken onto a boat, and the black cloth on my head still wasn't removed. I felt someone tying ropes around my body. Then they gave me a hard push, and the seawater rushed into my nostrils, squeezing my lungs. It was as if there were countless invisible hands climbing all over my body, dragging me down into the abyss. The news of the daughter of the Jocelyn family falling into the sea and dying spread quickly. The Jocelyn family spent a large amount of manpower and material resources, and searched for the kidnappers together with the police, but still couldn't catch them. The news was reported day after day. The underwater search teams salvaged day and night, but still didn't find the body. Rumors spread in the circle, and everyone was guessing who the Jocelyn family had offended, and who was so daring to provoke the Jocelyn family. I don't know how long the search lasted, but the Jocelyn family finally held a press conference and announced Jocelyn's death. On the day of the funeral, Jason brought Nina to the scene. In front of everyone, he took the hands of Jocelyn's father and mother, and said with tears streaming down his face, "President Jocelyn. Mrs. Jocelyn. I'm also very sad about Jocelyn's matter. But President Jocelyn, you must take care of your health. Don't be too sad. You still have a daughter waiting for you to take her home." As soon as these words came out, everyone was in an uproar. Jocelyn's father shook off Jason's hand. "Jason, are you so heartbroken that you're talking nonsense? What are you saying?" Jason pushed Nina forward and held up the identification report in front of everyone. This was forcing Jocelyn's father to admit it whether he wanted to or not. Jocelyn's father's face changed. Before he could speak, Nina trembled and knelt down on the ground, crying and grabbing the hem of Jocelyn's father's pants for help. "Father Jocelyn, please save me. I'm not like this." This went out almost sigh. This identification was forged by him. The plot reversed so quickly that Jace and didn't react for a moment. What on earth is going on here? Jocelyn's father suppressed his anger and looked at Nina. He threatened me and made me pretend to be the illegitimate daughter of the Jocelyn family, so that after I entered the Jocelyn family, I could plot to take the Jocelyn family's property. If I didn't agree, he would kill me. You can do another test and you'll know. I have no relationship with you at all. And He also said that he has already gotten rid of Jocelyn. And in the future. You're talking nonsense. Nina's crying words were interrupted by the furious Jason. Jason came up to grab Nina. But was held down by the people Jocelyn's father had arranged. Was it you who did something to Jocelyn? Jocelyn's father was a businessman. He immediately understood everything and had someone lift Jason's head by pulling his hair. President Jocelyn. How dare I? She came to me and said that she was the daughter of the Jocelyn family living outside. And begged me to help her enter the Jocelyn family. I really don't know anything about what happened to Jocelyn. Jason really lived up to the description of an idiot. He couldn't even tell a coherent lie. How could you not know? I spoke up from the crowd. Except for Jocelyn. Everyone around me showed a look of terror and backed away. When Jason saw me, his face instantly turned pale. He trembled and tried to hide, but was held down and couldn't move. Jocelyn. My parents called me in disbelief. I smiled at them to reassure them. I bent down and helped Nina up, and whispered in her ear. You acted really well. Do you want to consider entering the entertainment industry? I'll support you. Nina wiped away her tears and returned to her serious expression. I turned my gaze to Jason. Hi. Nice to meet you again. Your people tied the ropes really tightly. When Jocelyn had someone drive a boat to fish me out. It took quite a while to untie them. Jason made a last-ditch effort. Jocelyn. What are you talking about? I don't understand. You don't have much brains. The only thing that can be considered an advantage about you is your stubbornness. I squatted down and looked at Jason. Continuing, do you know why the Jocelyn family sent so many people but still couldn't find the people who kidnapped me? Because I and the Lynn family caught them first and have been interrogating them. Now, they've been handed over to the police. Guess how long it will take for the police to get here? With every word I said, Jason's face became more and more ashen. So you already knew. Jason stopped arguing and looked at me as if resigned to his fate. Originally, it would have been too easy to get rid of you and the Jason family. But I'm really interested in your plan and suddenly wanted to play along. As expected. It was really enjoyable. I patted his shoulder and teased. Jason's eyes were bloodshot and scarlet. He slowly smiled at me and said, all my efforts have been in vain. But it doesn't matter. It's not bad that you're here with me. After saying that, I don't know where Jason got the strength from. He broke free from the bodyguards, took out a small knife that he always carried with him, and stabbed towards me. Suddenly, heading to filled way. A warm body rushed in front of me and hugged me tightly in its arms. A knife stabbed deeply into the shoulder of the person who came. Nina gasped in pain beside my ear, but gritted her teeth and didn't make a sound. Jason was firmly pressed down. His head hit the floor, breaking the corner of his forehead. Blood flowed down his cheek, making him look even more ferocious. You all played tricks on me. All of you played tricks on me. You all treated me like a dog. Like a dog. The police sirens sounded. And the chattering Jason was taken away. I'll take you to the hospital. I supported Nina, whose face was deathly pale. It's okay. It doesn't hurt. It's just the shoulder. It doesn't matter. Nina pressed my hand and smiled at me. You're made of iron and don't feel pain. Do you want me to give you another stab? I gave Nina a fierce look. Nina immediately shut up. I took her to the hospital and left the aftermath to my parents and the grumbling Jocelyn. Not long after Jason was arrested, Father Jason passed away. Although most of the family property in the will was given to the eldest son of the Jason family, Jason was still left with a certain amount of shares and property. Do you think if Jason knew that Father Jason left something for him, would he not have gone so far? Jocelyn picked up a chopstick full of food and asked. No. Someone like Jason would never be satisfied. Otherwise, he wouldn't have made mistakes again and again. I reached out and took the meal prepared by Aunt Liu. Jocelyn glanced at the exquisite meal on the tray and asked, who is this for? It's for Nina. She's preparing for an exam recently and always forgets to come down for meals. I replied casually. What? You've let her move into your house? Jocelyn swallowed the food and raised her voice. Keep your voice down. I'm not deaf. Things have just settled down after the Jason family incident. And it's not peaceful. so I asked her to come over. Anyway, having fulfilled my obsession. This villa is usually empty. I left these words and then turned around and went upstairs. I left Jocelyn downstairs, grumbling in dissatisfaction. I knocked on the door a few times. Nina. It's time for dinner. Nina was wearing home clothes, with her long hair reaching her shoulders. Without acting, she exuded a cold and detached air. But her eyes were very gentle. Next time, you can just ask Cantley to call me downstairs. If you would listen when called, would I need to come up here? I leaned against the door frame and raised my eyebrows at her. Nina took the tray somewhat sheepishly and made way for me. Wow. The flowers you planted have bloomed. I reached out and touched the white petals. Yeah. They have bloomed. When they bloom even better, I'll get them to you, Nina said while eating. Okay. I'm looking forward to it. I sat on the sofa and waited for Nina to finish her meal. The room fell silent. I don't know how long it had passed when Nina's voice sounded. My real name isn't Nina. I raised my head from the book and looked at her. I'm Mina. Nina looked at me with some persistence and solemnly said her name. I smiled softly. Okay. Nina. My name is Jocelyn. Nice to meet you. Nina. Nice to meet you. I'm waiting for your flowers. The end of the full text. Mina's side story 1. My name is Mina. I don't know where I came from. And I have no place to return to. At least when I was a child. I thought so. Since I could remember. I have been in an orphanage. This orphanage is in a remote corner of a remote small town. Just like us orphans. No one cares about it. It can only slowly decline over time. But one day, a woman appeared and said she wanted to take me home. Home? I searched my mind for a long time, but couldn't find any memory that matched this word. The dean told me that home is a clean and bright place. With people who love me. A lot of new clothes. And the room smells nice too. I looked at the woman in front of me and secretly called her mom in my heart. Many times. She also changed my name to Nina. But when I really entered that home, I realized that adults can also lie. What the dean said wasn't right. Home isn't clean and bright. It's filled with stacked wine bottles of different kinds. The room doesn't smell nice. It's filled with the unpleasant smell of alcohol. Mom isn't gentle either. She would hit people. And then cry after hitting them. After she broke the clothes hanger on me again. She hugged me and cried hysterically. She said that she took drugs and managed to get pregnant with great difficulty. She managed to give birth to the child while hiding. She thought that when the child grew up a bit, they could enter the Jocelyn family with her and live a good life. But the child died. It seemed that she was going to cry out all her tears. I reached out to wipe her tears. She saw the alternating blood marks on my arm and then smiled. She said that she hadn't lost yet. I actually looked so much like her child. And this was God wanting her to win. She told me that she would take me into the Jocelyn family. And in the future, I would have everything that Jocelyn had. This was the first time I heard the name Jocelyn. I didn't know what the good life she mentioned was because before I could wait for it, she died. I heard that she accidentally fell and died after getting drunk. I became a child that no one wanted again. Nina's side story 2. I was sent to a welfare institute. It was like having a somewhat painful but reluctant dream. In this welfare institute, there wasn't that gentle dean who had lied to me before. The dean here would bully us. She would beat us, lock us in a dark room, and not give us food. Suddenly one day, a little girl came. She was as beautiful as a fairy in the sky. Although she was wearing the most ordinary white short-sleeved shirt, she was so beautiful that people couldn't take their eyes off her. I heard from the older children that she was the eldest young lady of the Jocelyn family. Named Jocelyn. She had been doing charity work and had sponsored many orphanages and welfare institutes. She really was a fairy. This was the second time I heard the name Jocelyn. One night, the dean went crazy and asked the little girl in the upper bunk to go to her. The little girl was so scared that she cried. I hid under the quilt and didn't want to make a sound, but somehow, I suddenly thought of Jocelyn. I thought of the way she helped up the girl who fell. I lifted the quilt and told that girl that I would go in her place. It turned out that not everyone can be a fairy. I was almost beaten to death and thrown into the dark room. I pulled the corner of my injured mouth, dipped my finger in the blood on my body, and secretly wrote Jocelyn's name in the corner. The character U in Jocelyn's name was too difficult to write, so I wrote the pinyin. Jocelyn came again. Every time she came, there were so many people around her. I couldn't squeeze in. But it didn't matter. I was still very happy to look at her from a distance. But it seemed that she noticed me. I ran to the corner. But she still found me. She was so amazing. She asked me why I had been looking at her, and if I had something to say. Before I could say anything, she got angry. Because she saw the injury on my hand. It turned out that even a little fairy can be terrifying when she's angry. I said it didn't hurt. Mom would also hit me. But she would cry after hitting me. So every time I told her it didn't hurt. I didn't hate her. And I didn't want her to cry. But Jocelyn said to me, "How could it not hurt? Are you made of iron?" After saying that, she went out, stood on tiptoe, and said a few words to the young man beside the car. The man then made a phone call. Then, let out a low sigh. A lot of people came. And the courtyard was surrounded. We were all sent back to our rooms. Later, that dean disappeared. The new dean was gentle and interesting. And we all liked her very much. I heard them say that the Jocelyn family also gave a large sum of sponsorship, telling us not to worry and to study hard. I secretly wrote Jocelyn's name in my heart again. She was so amazing. Nina's side story 3. I was very good at studying and worked very hard. I didn't want to let Jocelyn down. Although Jocelyn didn't care whether I let her down or not. Later, I grew up. I was adopted by a nanny aunt. Jocelyn also grew up. I often saw reports about her on TV. I could also see her in magazines. I started to secretly follow her. Of course, such opportunities weren't many. The people around her protected her very well. So, every time I could see her, I couldn't help but take a lot of photos of her. Where the sunlight couldn't reach. It seemed that Jocelyn had shone in. But it seemed that Jocelyn had fallen in love with a not-so-good person. Jason. He had relationships with many people behind Jocelyn's back. He also drugged Jocelyn. I knocked over the drugs. And the way Jocelyn looked at me was very strange. She didn't remember me. Jason didn't deserve Jocelyn. And Jocelyn couldn't continue to like Jason. So later, I got close to him. I wanted to show Jocelyn his true face. Even if Jocelyn hated me because of this, it didn't matter. I let Jason see that paternity test report. I wanted to expose him when he tried to send me into the Jocelyn family and say that he was lying. In this way, heading fulfilled my obsession. Nina's secret would completely disappear. Jason wouldn't have another chance to get close to Jocelyn either. Jocelyn came back. And the way she looked at me was even stranger. I acted in front of her. She didn't show disgust. Just impatience. But I didn't want her to be unhappy. Before I could make a new plan, Jocelyn noticed something was wrong. Found me. And also discovered my secret. "Miss, do you want to deal with these people?" "Yes." I was afraid that Jocelyn would think the same way. But she didn't. She smiled and praised my good photography skills. I thought. In the future, could I ask Jocelyn to let me take a photo of her openly? Just one photo would be enough. If not, it didn't matter. She asked me a lot of questions. And I didn't hide anything. I told her everything. Jocelyn's eyes were too bright. And I couldn't lie to her. Moreover, Jocelyn was really smart. Much smarter than me. So, when the news of Jocelyn's death came, although I didn't believe it, I still thought about killing Jason more than once. Jocelyn came back, bringing her own victory. I just didn't expect that Jason would suddenly go crazy. When I blocked the knife for Jocelyn, it actually hurt a lot. But when I thought that fortunately it was me who was in pain and not her, it didn't seem to hurt so much anymore. Jocelyn scolded me for being like an Iron Man. And I was very happy. Jocelyn took me to her home and bought me a lot of new clothes. It turned out that the dean wasn't lying. Home really is clean and bright. The room really does smell nice. And there really are new clothes to wear. Jocelyn asked me what I wanted to do in the future. And I said I wanted to study. Jocelyn said, "Then study." Jocelyn brought me food again. I'm really sorry. The flowers that I want to give to Jocelyn have bloomed. When they bloom even better, I'll give them to her. I told Jocelyn that my name is Mina. Jocelyn said she remembered it. It doesn't matter if she doesn't remember. I know she still hasn't thought of me. But it doesn't matter. It's enough that I remember. By the way, I can already write the character, you in Jocelyn's name. And I write it very beautifully. The end of the full text.